Guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we're building a library in San Sequoia, and this one's kind of funny because the inspiration for this build was actually a garden planter. I think that's what they're called when I see them on my Pinterest, but I would call them more of a flower pot. I don't know if maybe that's just something that different places call them different things, but to me something a little bit smaller like that I would probably call a flower pot. I guess it can't be a flower pot if flowers aren't in it. Maybe it would be a planter. I don't know. When I think of garden planters, I think of what we have in the game. So I think of something that's bigger and meant to be outside. And this looks like something you would have like on a table. It looks smaller to me. But anyway, I will go on and put the inspiration picture up on the screen where you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it's basically this little planter flower pot thing that has some succulents in it. But it has this building, this little house that is placed up on top of these books, and when I saw this I thought that would make a great library in The Sims, and so I wanted to try to build it, and this is basically what happened when I tried to build it. So I hope you guys enjoy this build. It's a little bit weird. It's one of my more quirky builds, I guess, but I really enjoy doing stuff like this, and I was thinking about it a lot as I was building this, and honestly I just feel like sometimes I get thinking so much while I'm building about whether or not something makes sense or whether or not it's realistic. But the truth is that the most fun part of building in The Sims to me is that it doesn't have to be realistic. You know, we can build just about anything we want with the limitations, of course, that we have in the game. Which, speaking of limitations, I always forget that we don't have diagonal stairs yet in the game. Always forget that. Every single time I do a build like this where I use a diagonal building or room, I always forget that. I do not know why I cannot remember it, but every single time it gets me, and I have this moment where I remember that that's not something we can do yet. It absolutely frustrates me every time because that is probably one of my biggest disappointments as a builder. And I always forget about that too when I'm thinking about stuff, when I'm talking about stuff that I wish that we had available to us in the game. I always forget about that. But anyway, it's not even that big of a deal. We managed, but I really wanted you to be able to walk up those books. I wanted to make it into a way that your sim could walk up the books and go into the top part of this building. And I had a couple of ideas in my mind of ways that I could possibly do that, but I ultimately just decided that it was just going to look weird. You know, it just wasn't going to be worth it because of the way the books are all stacked at different places and without the diagonal stairs, and then just it would have been hard to get it lined up perfectly and everything else, so I decided just to leave that behind. And so the build has two entrances if you're on the ground, I guess. If you're on the bottom, well, if you're just walking up to it, it has two entrances, which is the one you guys can see right now that's to the left, and then there's one on the back of the building as well. But that one that is on the second floor that you can see the door, I did include a balcony there, so your Sims can walk out there and it's completely functional. And I'm going to end up putting a rocking chair and a telescope and an easel, I believe, is the three things. Maybe a plant too. I think I put a plant out there. But anyway, it is completely functional. I did just get finished playtesting this today, and I think I had to change a few things, but they were all on the interior, and none of it was too big of a deal, so it was all pretty good. But yeah, the books are totally fine. They won't mess with functionality because I put them in the basement. And I think probably most of you guys have heard me talk about this, or at least somebody else talk about this before. But if you ever don't want a item to mess with the functionality of other stuff in The Sims, then you can place it in the basement and then lift it up. And usually that will keep everything functional because the game actually registers it as in the basement, so it doesn't register it like it's in the way of your Sims, if that makes sense. And so far I don't think I've ever had any issues with that. I don't think I've ever had that not work for me. So that's what I did with the books. So you guys may have noticed that I placed them in the basement. And then for these new windows from the Growing Together pack that I'm placing right now, I love these windows, and I mentioned this in the first speed build I did, I think after the new pack came out. I've already talked about this, so I'll go over it really quick. But to place those windows the way I wanted to place them, I actually have to place two of them. So I placed one on the roof, and since I use the tool mod, I just use the tool mod to force that window down, and then that leaves the area of the roof, that leaves that see-through, I guess is the only word I can come up with right now, but it's like a window so you can see through it. And then I placed one on the next floor underneath the roof, and I lifted up. And then for this build, I actually went on and used the T.O.O.L mod and just shrunk one of the windows down to where it was invisible. And I had talked about that in that last speed build where I was mentioning this, and I actually don't recommend this, okay, because the thing that happened in this one is that I shrunk the one that was on the second floor. And so you guys will notice as we're decorating the interior, when you have the walls down and you can't see the roof, then you can see that opening, but you can't see the window, if that makes sense. And so it's really weird, and it's not that big of a deal, but from now on, I think I'm just going to go back to what I did with that first house that I built with these windows. That's what I think I'm going to end up doing, is just shifting it a little bit forward to get rid of the glitching, because I don't know why it kind of bugged me a little bit. And also, I thought that when I shrunk it down, I thought that I kept just a little bit of it, because that's what I've been doing with the T.O.O.L mod. Because I've had a few instances where I shrunk it down to where it was invisible, and then I needed to grab it again and I couldn't get to it, and you can't find it. And so lately when I do that, I shrink it down really, really small, but there's still just a tiny little speck. And I guess I didn't do that this time because I was trying to fix that. It's not really a glitch, but I was trying to fix that. What I was talking about, how it's invisible on the second floor, I was trying to turn it around. And anyway, I couldn't even find a little speck of that window, so I couldn't change it. But getting back to the build, we pretty much have the shell of the building done now. And this is the back area of the lot. So it's not really a backyard, but I may refer to it that way because I don't know what else to call it. But this back space. So I decided that I wanted this area to kind of still look like a part of the build that you could walk up into, because this is a very public looking community. Well, it's not a community lot necessarily. You could build a house here, but it does look like very much like a public space because you have all these sidewalks all around it, and it just kind of has the look of a community lot. So I wanted the back of this build to look as welcoming as the front. Anyway, I did want to decorate it really nice and kind of have an entrance way over there too. And the surrounding area of this lot has a lot of these hedge mazes. I don't know what else to call them but you can kind of see them now. So it's like using this hedge, and then they kind of are placed in these frames, or kind of, they look like mazes to me. They're not really, I guess, because they're totally closed in. But I decided to make my own little maze in the backyard space area of this build, and so you guys have already seen that because it already went by. But I did put a little chess table out there and some puzzle tables, and I think I put a statue as well and maybe a water fountain thing. Just really decorative, but I do have a few activities out there that makes it also useful and not just decorative, so that's out there. And also, I think the libraries require you to have a chess table, and I think that's the only one that I put on this lot. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the only one I added. But anyway, now we're on to the front part of this building, and I included one of these food stalls, and I haven't used the food stalls a whole lot. I think I've included them in builds before, but I didn't realize that if you added them to, it makes sense in a residential lot if you add a food stall that a worker won't show up and start working it. That makes sense to me. But this is a community lot, and so I was really hoping that it would work normally, and that if I placed it on a community lot, that someone would show up and, serve you whatever. I don't even remember which food stall that was, but basically I wanted a worker to show up. Well, when I play tested it, they did not show up, and so I had to hire someone. But I think it's 100 simoleons to hire someone to come, and that's not too bad. I mean, I don't blame you guys if you don't want to do that as you're playing, because if you don't use cheats or anything, then that might be a lot of simoleons for you guys. But I feel like it's not too bad to just click it in. Maybe you could use cheats just to hire someone, but that was a little bit of a bummer because I felt like with it being a community lot that someone would show up, but they never did, so I had to hire someone. But it did work. It was functional. When I hired someone in, they came and they were able to get in there and everything. But I just really liked the way that looked out in front of this build because I didn't really know what else to put in front of it. And when I first started building on this is a 30 by 20 lot. I don't know if I've already said that, but when I first started building, I felt like it was such a small lot. And I had tried a couple different buildings that I wanted to do, and I couldn't get them to fit onto this lot. And so I felt like it was so small. But then when it came time to decorate the exterior of this build, it felt like I had a lot of space outside to decorate. So I guess it's not that small after all, because I definitely had a lot of space to work with. But now we're on to the interior, and the first thing I did in the interior was go on and make the bathroom, and this is the only little bathroom in this build, and so there's technically only one toilet because I was going to make this whole space bathroom stalls kind of, but then I remembered that I needed to have a sink as well, and so I ended up just backing it down to one little stall with a toilet area, and then I did a public sink area, and I put a diaper changing station thing in there, one of the public ones, because I have not been able to use one of those so far, so I was excited about that. This lot doesn't have a shower. I feel like I usually do try to include showers in my community lots, because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm playing, usually there are always Sims who are in the bathrooms and they're taking showers and they're doing all that stuff. And so I usually do like to include a shower, because also, isn't it the rags to riches challenge that would probably be really helpful in community lots as well? I'm sure there's a lot of challenges that it would be helpful to have a shower on a public lot. But anyway, I didn't get to include one on this one. And now we're decorating the kind of entryway to this build, or one of them, because there's two total. But this area, I'm going to include a little kids area in. And I was really happy with the way this turned out, because I don't know why, but ever since we got the base game update and the new pack, I have wanted to do a community lot and include like a little baby area, or this is actually just a kids area in general, but right now I'm working on the little baby area. So I used one of those new gates that we got, and a little baby play mat and some toys and stuff like that. And I just think it's so cute. And your Sims can walk in there. I didn't put an infant in my family to play test the baby mat for sure. So I don't know if you can do tummy time and all that, but I know that your Sims can walk in there. So they should be able to place the baby in there as well. But I put a little travel crib in there as well. And I just wanted to put a bunch of activities and stuff, because it's a library. So you have the books and you have chess and you have what else? You have some computers and stuff, but I also wanted there to be stuff for your family and then just other general activities as well. And so for the kids area, I put one of the little activity tables from Seasons. I think I even put in a little violin as well. And I go back later and include one of those, what is it called? One of those badge things. Oh man, I don't know what it's called, but it's from the Seasons pack, and it's some kind of, I think it's something to do with the scout, like a scouting badge. Man, that's a bad description. I don't really know what it is. You guys will see it. It's closer to the end of the video, because I was nearly done decorating and then I saw it and I went back downstairs and added it in. But anyway, I also put a little desk there as well, but I didn't add a computer to that desk, because for the kids area, I thought, well, maybe your kid could come, like after school, you could come here, and maybe your kid would need to do their homework or something like that, which there's plenty of spaces for that as well. So you could add a computer there if you wanted to, but I just didn't add one when I was building this, because I added a bunch of computers over here in this area that you guys can see right now, because I don't know why, but when I'm building libraries, I just really like doing these really long tables instead of actual desks. And the requirements require you to have some desks. So we're going to have plenty. I think we have 3. I did the minimum because I do prefer the long tables. But this is my main like computer area and stuff. Like I said, there are a couple more desks that come later on that have a computer and all that. So that is an option, but I just really like the look of those long dining tables and chairs all around them and stuff like that. It just looks like a cozy study space and everything. But now we're on to this little area. This is beside the bathroom, which is probably a weird place for it to be, but I didn't think about that as I was building. But this is a little cafe area, and so I have it turned around because, of course, just like the food stall, an NPC isn't going to come and tend to the cafe bar. But it is functional for your Sims to make themselves a drink. So they can walk up to it and they can make themselves a coffee or something like that. I did playtest that, and it's totally functional. And I just really like that area because, you know what, I don't go to libraries a lot, and my library is very small. It doesn't have anything like this, but I love city libraries that have coffee areas. And I don't even drink coffee. I do not like coffee. I've never been a fan, and so I don't even drink it. But I just think it's really cool to have those little cafe areas in your library. I think it's just a really cozy space, and you can smell it. I do really like the smell of coffee, and you can smell it. and it feels warm even when it's cold, if that makes sense. And so I just think that's so cool. And so I wanted to include that in this library because I think the only other library that I've ever done, I don't think it had anything like that. But then on these two areas that are on the upper floors, they don't connect, so they're two separate rooms. And also forgot that I couldn't place diagonal ladders as well, which is really frustrating. And I kind of wanted to have a ladder that was in front of the bookcases, if that makes sense. But then I couldn't work out how to do that. And so in both places, they're not really like that. But anyway, on the right side of the build, it's basically just bookcases and like a living chair, because you have to have some of those. And it's really just a decorative space. I have one desk over there, and then I have the other desk over here, which is the little area we're decorating. That's up on the left side of the screen. So that's the diagonal building, as you can see from the ladder. But this area, I was kind of running out of ideals at this point because we have plenty of bookcases, we had plenty of desks and computers and all that stuff. And so I ended up kind of making this into a little just cozy space. I'm going to end up adding a couch and a chair. And I think I end up adding one more of the puzzle tables, maybe two. I'm not 100% sure. But I love the puzzle table so much. You know, I've never used the activity tables a whole lot, like the Don't Wake the Llama. And then I think there's a base game one as well. I don't even know what comes with that one. But I've never used them a whole lot. But for some reason, the thought of being able to do a puzzle in The Sims is just thrilling to me. And I cannot explain to you guys why, because I don't even do puzzles that much in reality, but for some reason, when I saw that puzzle table, I was just absolutely in love with it. And so I put one of those up here. But that's pretty much it for this library. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below in the comments if you feel like it. I always love hearing from you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I hope you all are doing really, really well. And hopefully I will talk to you guys soon with another speed build.